Hey Pixel Pros, today I'm super excited to share with you my latest obsession in Destiny 2, the Invincible Hunter build. Seriously, I can't stop playing this setup, and once you try it, you'll see why. Let's dive into how you can create this build and the amazing benefits it brings to your gameplay. Alright, to start, you'll want to equip the Prismatic subclass and grab the exotic class item with the Spirit of Sartarachne perk. This perk is a game changer because it gives you Woven Mail, providing a whopping 45% damage reduction every time you throw a grenade. And we're not just talking about one grenade, this build uses 3, Arc Bolt, Gunpowder Gamble or GPG for short, and Hellfire Spike. Arc Bolt jolts enemies and stuns overload champions with Facet of Dominance. Gunpowder Gamble creates massive ignition explosions, and Hellfire Spike slows and scorches enemies. For your subclass, run Threaded Spectre for decoys and Facet of Mending for healing on grenade kills. Aim for high resilience 90 to 100, discipline 90 to 100, and mobility try and get around 70. Don't forget to equip mods like Ashes to Assets, Firepower, Font of Vigor, and Recuperation. Plus, throw in artifact mods like Shield Crush, Galvanic Armor, and Transference. Use arc weapons to stay amplified and pack some high burst damage in your heavy slot. Now let's talk about the benefits. This build is all about staying alive and dealing massive damage. You'll have constant uptime on 3 powerful grenades, high survivability with that 45% damage reduction from Woven Mail, and healing from grenade kills. It gives you versatile crowd control with jolting ignition effects, stuns champions, and keeps your abilities regenerating at top speed. Especially when you're in Transcendence, this thing turns absolutely nutty. The flexibility with super and weapon choices means you can handle any situation, whether you're clearing ads or tackling tough content. With this setup, you'll be resilient, always regenerating abilities and maximizing your damage output, perfect for both solo and team activities. Give it a try and let me know how it goes in the comments, but here's some more footage of exactly how this build works and the crazy power that it has. Happy hunting, Guardians. I'll see you in the next one. In this first clip, I'm doing the Overthrow in the Blooming, where a section where you get bombarded in a small corridor with loads and loads of ads and champions. I think this is one of the best examples I have of how powerful the Hunter build really is outside of the Golden Gun, Celestial Hawk, overpowered build that we all know and love already. When it comes to supers, I actually like using the tether, the Void Tether, simply because it draws all the enemies in, it weakens them into one spot, and then I just absolutely unleash all of my grenades at once, building up both the Gunpowder Gamble and my protection. As you can see here, when I become Transcendent, as I said in the previous introduction, this is when everything really kicks off, and these enemies just absolutely disappear. And then not before too long, I've regained my super all over again to repeat the process. Okay, so we're about to move on to another Overthrow boss, and yet again, when I combine everything together, once I've stacked it all up, this boss takes no time at all to just completely disappear. Just look at this combination. In this next section, I'm in the final part of a lost sector in the Pale Heart, and this is another great example of how I can control all of the multiple amount of ads whilst also competing with a final boss. Like, you can literally do high damage with the Gunpowder Gamble grenade. If you destroy more than 5 or 6 enemies, you've got your Gunpowder Gamble grenade back. Then you use your super, and it's almost like just a rinse and repeat of how you can control loads of different enemies, but at the same time defeat the boss that you're actually focused on. This is one of the features that I love about this build, is with the shurikens you can freeze most overloads or barriers, And that in itself is just absolutely golden. Gambler's Dodge, you can dodge near enemies and you can get those shurikens back. Like, you can see how it just works in sync and in synergy. Just look at all of those ads disappear in obliteration. And there you have it. The boss and the Lost Sector is finished. In this last clip, I actually used this build to run the most recent Expert Lost Sector to do a solo flawless run. So I actually run what I call my favorite kind of solo build, which is Outbreak Perfected as my primary weapon. Not only is it good for barrier champions, but also just having rewind rounds on this thing just means I can unleash loads of DPS for a long period of time. When I'm in trouble or feel overwhelmed, I then jump into my Indebted Kindness, not only just for its strength in its DPS, but also the fact that it gets multi-kills and spreads across, and Arc Jolts, which feeds back into the subclass's abilities. Your heavy weapon is kind of a personal choice. I run the Edge Transit. I just feel like that just kind of works really nicely, but I also do work with Apex Predator as well. I think one of the maybe even unspoken benefits of the Outbreak Perfected is the fact that those shielded Vex enemies, and we're dealing with Vex enemies a lot in the current act, it goes through their shield. So many of the bosses that are really usually difficult to do and to deal with, because you can only shoot them at certain times, the Outbreak Perfected is just a master at this, and really, really is great, especially for solo work. So there you go, the Edge Transit made an absolute mincemeat of that Overload champion. So again, you've got all of the synergy from all of the benefits just chaining together to do explosive damage, ignitions, jolting, all at the same time, which just makes clearing enemies to deal with mini bosses or difficult foes just so much easier when you can just focus on them on their own. So here you can see the rewind rounds on the Outbreak Perfected just absolutely decimates that barrier champion. This next section is great because I've saved my super, because it's such a condensed area with an Overload champion. This is just perfect. The Shadow Shot super just brings them all together, combines them into one space where, again, all of the chain reactions and explosions are going off. And then it even makes the Overload champion just stuck, receiving all of the wrath of everything that I have in my arsenal. And there you go, there you have it, done and dusted. We're now going to be moving on to the next section of the Lost Sector. Taking a bit of a pause here. I hate these disappearing platforms, so I wouldn't want to wreck my solo flawless just for falling to my death. Transcendence is ready. My Gunpowder Gamble is ready. Just need to get in a good position over to the left. Slow and steady wins this race, that's for sure. Right now I'm going to unleash all of my grenades on the foes on the platform. So this is what I was talking about earlier with regards to Outbreak Perfected. I can get a really nice head peek on the boss And because I'm not subjected to only shooting him in the areas where his shield is not present, I can just continuously shoot using rewind rounds, using Transcendence to get damage buffs, as well as protection buffs. I've got my Shadow Shot ready. I'm building up both of my Light and Darkness from using Outbreak Perfected as well. Like this build is just, honestly, it's just mwah. Alright, so the boss is down. Just need to deal with the Harpies. That's where the Indebted Kindness comes out. Just deals with these things really quickly. Usually at some point does string kills together, but not this time. And the barrier champion is still there. Annoyingly, just standing on there. So hit him with the Shadow Shot. Constantly hold down that trigger button with the Outbreak Perfected. He eventually goes to do his barrier. Because it's a pulse rifle and I've got that artifact perk on, he can't regenerate his health. And Bob's your uncle, he is dead. And there you have it. Solo, flawless, expert lost sector using this build. Told you, it's absolutely OP. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one.